Hey everyone, Mike Linares here, and welcome to the Code Blue podcast brought to you by Holly Blue, the first one and only social media app created by nurses, specifically for nurses. So think of this as a community made just for you. You guys can download the app and connect with nurses in your area and also boost your knowledge and career. We are here back again with Tina from Good Nurse, Bad Nurse, the CVICU nurse who's been a nurse for 5 years. What's up, Tina?
Hey, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude. Okay, so if you guys don't know, Tina does this amazing Good Nurse, Bad Nurse, like murder mystery type of podcast where she features like one good nurse and one bad nurse every single week. And we've collabed and I've been a featured guest for like 15 episodes. So it's pretty awesome. So if you guys like those Law and Order type of murder mysteries, go download the podcast Good Nurse, Bad Nurse. What even got you started with that, by the way? I know this is not
with the podcast.
Yeah.
Pretty much what got me started is as a new grad, I kind of thought I had made a mistake by becoming a nurse because I was so overwhelmed and so stressed, and I thought I had no idea how hard it was, and I didn't understand because no one ever really told me that. I didn't have I just didn't understand it. And a couple of years in, all of a sudden I realized, oh my gosh, I do love nursing. This is actually a really great career. And I felt bad because there was at least a couple of different people that I'm pretty sure we're going to go to nursing school. And I was just like, oh my gosh, don't do it. It's terrible.
I gotta tell them.
And then I was just like, no, it's actually really good. I just didn't realize that it takes a couple of years for you to feel confident in your skills.
Yeah, man.
I mean, I didn't know that. I was so stressed out. I thought, my gosh, this is the way it's going to always be. And it's not always like that. And I wanted to tell people that way. And I discovered podcasts and I was like, what a great way to, kind of try to get to people and just be like, hey, I just want to let you know, if you're going through this, it's not going to last forever. You're going to love it. Stick it out, that kind of thing.
Yeah. It's almost like, driver's training. I always like in nursing school too, where it's like nursing, like driver, like when you take your driving test, that's nothing like actual driving, right? And the same thing with nursing, right? Like once you get the hang of it, it usually takes a year before you actually feel comfortable and you don't feel like you're going to kill someone every single time you go to the shift. And then you finally get organized and all this stuff, right? Not feeling overwhelmed every single day.
It's true. It's very true. It takes, and it's different for everyone how long it takes. It maybe depends on the type of floor that you're working on, where you're working, and just you in general. Maybe some people learn differently. Maybe it takes you a while. I'm the type of person, I have to do something a couple of, maybe even 2 or 3 times before then I don't even think about it anymore. Like there was a time when hanging a bag of tube feed with a kangaroo pump was like a nightmare. I was just like, oh my gosh, this is overwhelming. Obviously you feel silly, like I just feel ridiculous now. But then I said that to another nurse recently, and they were like, I'm the same way. Yeah, it was terrible. Like, so just think about all the skills, all the interventions, all the things you're supposed to know. You can't possibly know all that when you first start. It's overwhelming. And so you're horrified. You're scared to death, like of getting a patient with a chest tube. And how do I assess that patient? How do I know if everything's okay? The stupid atrium, is it supposed to bubble or not?
Where is the bubbling? Is it the seal, the chamber, the drainage?
Is it on fluctuation? Is it not? If it's to water seal, or good Lord, it's too much. It's overwhelming.
What about the ventilator?
Just the chest tube.
The ventilator itself is like a washing machine or like whatever.
Don't even get me started on those ventilators.
Okay,
Thank you, respiratory therapists.
Yeah. Okay, before we get ahead of ourselves, we're going to be talking exactly about this today. We're going to be talking about horror stories as a nurse being floated to a crazy unit right after orientation or right after we're a new nurse. Then we'll talk about why you chose nursing and then also Tina's nursing goals. But before we get started, a little bit about Holly Blue, the first social media app, guys, created by nurses for nurses. So this community is amazing. It's kind of like Facebook, as they have, groups, but it's specifically for nurses. So if you want to be a critical care nurse, or let's say you want to be a travel nurse and you have questions, you don't know any travel nurses, guys, get the Holly Blue app and start connecting with those type of nurses. You guys can download it and connect with nurses near you. Now, I know we have COVID and everything, but it shows you exactly who's online in your city, and you can boost your knowledge and career and pretty much hack the system. So it's an amazing app. Go download Holly Blue. All right, so let's get into it, Tina. You're a new a new grad nurse, and you get thrown into a float pool. And if you guys don't know what a float pool is, it's basically like, you know, this big conglomerate, like kind of like the waiting pool, like the lost and found bin, where they just send you anywhere in the hospital. So you just kind of feel comfortable being a nurse in, let's say, the med surg floor. Then they're going to throw you to another part of the hospital, and you're like, what? Okay, so how did it go for you?
Oh my gosh, what a nightmare. Talk about a horror story. This is really a nightmare for me. And when I look back on it, I don't even think I understood how bad it was. Now, when I think about it, that's horrifying. It's even more terrifying because I understand. I know what I didn't know then. Then I didn't know what I didn't know, if that makes sense. Right, yeah. But it was so scary because I was a brand new nurse. This was in the small hospital that I worked at just for like 2 minutes. So I got a job there, and I was happy there. I felt like it was a nice little country hospital, and it was on a step down unit. But I only had like 6 weeks of orientation, and that included the classroom time.
Oh
like
my
I
God.
honestly did not have much orientation at all. It was terrible. Like actual time with a preceptor was very minimal.
Isn't it supposed to be like, what, 90 days to at least 6 months or something like that in that window?
I can tell you when I left there and went to the level 1 trauma center where I worked, I was on orientation for an additional like 4 months.
Wow. See, yeah, okay. That 3 to 6
Yeah.
month window, yeah.
Yeah. And on the CVICU where I work now, if you are, well, for one thing, we don't hire new grads, but even as a seasoned nurse, I was on orientation for like 3 months. So just to think about what in the world I was doing, taking care of people who were in that hospital.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And so, but not only am I new, and I only had, 6 weeks of orientation, and like I said, that was including the classroom, like computer boring snooze fest of trying to learn.
Crap, getting your badge, taking a picture.
Yeah. Right. All of that. How to use a freaking glucometer. I mean, just stuff you want to pull your hair out. That is part of the 6 weeks. And then here you go. And actually one of the very last few days of my shifts, on orientation, it was like, oh, we don't have a preceptor, so here's 5 patients, and I was just like, what? It's like,
oh my God.
I can't. It was crazy. Well,
okay. Oh my God. So they just throw you on the deep end.
That's how it felt. And then fast forward 2 weeks after that, and I got floated to another floor, and I'm a brand new nurse. I don't even know about the floor I'm working on. And now I get floated to the neuro floor, like a med surg neuro floor with all the neuro patients. So there's how like you kind of remember things, but your mind sort of, I don't know if it's just like a protective coping mechanism, but it sort of blocks everything out. There's a couple of things that stick out in my mind. One thing that I remember for sure is that I think I met the team leader that night one time, that because the team leader had like 5 patients on the opposite side of and it was like an L shaped, and they were on the opposite end of the other L, you know what I'm saying? Like the other end. So you were like, and I was way on the other end. And so here I am with my 5 patients going from one to the other. And I remember that I was on this floor, like no help. I felt like it was in the middle of like, the Halloween movie where it's like the hospital and it's like dead and there's like nobody there. That's how it felt, because it was night shift. So there was just literally nobody there except me and the patients. That's how it felt.
Oh my God.
And so one of my patients needed an IV. I remember trying to start this IV, and
Oh, yeah.
blood going everywhere.
Oh man.
Blood went everywhere. And I know now that that was probably a good thing. I mean, I got the IV, and it's just like, I think now I'm thinking, dang, I'm kind of proud of myself. I got that IV, and I was so new. I didn't even know what I was doing. And there was blood going everywhere because I actually hit the vein, like that's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
bad, but I didn't know to
That's
like
good.
block the vein off,
Oh, you didn't even know to block. Oh
Lord,
man.
I don't know. I was just trying to, I don't know what I was doing.
Which,
I
by the
knew,
way,
but
yeah.
stuff. And then when you're in the middle of it, you're just kind of like just trying to survive.
Yeah, yeah.
But
But okay, so statistically, no, I should say this. Statistically, you don't do almost any of the skills other than like in nursing school, right? Other than like a Foley, or I forget what the other one was. There was a whole study done. They say that like nursing students don't even start an IV on a real person until the first day or like,
mhm.
at the hospital. And it's so funny because I remember he didn't even start an IV at all in nursing school and was expected to do 6 in the first day or like the first week. And it's like, because I was precepting in the ER.
Oh, well, okay. Yeah.
And I'm like,
That's
what?
good.
But that was crazy to me because I'm like, how they just expect you kind of to know. So I can see how, you know, it blindsided you
Yeah.
on
And I
that
didn't,
aspect.
but I was so new and so naive that I didn't know that it was unreasonable for me. Like I thought I was supposed to know it. So I just tried. I just did
You just
everything.
jumped in.
I just tried to do the best I could. Um, and it was really difficult. I remember at the end of the shift, I also remember that, and this is a good little tip if anybody's listening to this. I had an antibiotic I was trying to hang, and I remember wanting to cry, and I would not let myself. I was just like, "Duh, no, you can do this." I was like making myself just force it. I wanted to cry because I could not. That's pretty much what I was doing, but I was just like, I cannot get this piggyback to prime. Like I couldn't get the antibiotic to prime. And that I didn't understand why. And I was so frustrated. And at some point I like looked I walked up and down the hall to find another nurse. And I finally found one. And I
Wow.
was like, please, I
That's
know you're
scary,
so
dude.
busy and and this person, they don't have time to help me.
Yeah,
And I
right.
was like, I am trying so hard to hang this antibiotic. I've tried so many times. I can't figure out what's going on. She walked down there. I'm so
Mm.
thankful for this person. She walked down there. She took one look at it and she said, honey, that's a glass bottle. You got to flip open there's a little door that you have to open on
Yeah.
a glass bottle. I didn't know that. Ah!
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
so like, thank you for telling me. How are you supposed to know all this stuff? This is ridiculous. We need more
Mm-hmm.
support than this. And from then on, oh my gosh, every nursing student I've ever had, they will tell you that I tell them the glass bottle story. So over and over and over again, I'm just like, if you get a glass bottle, Lord, please flip open that thing so that you won't go through it. I just don't want people to go through the frustration that I went through. So that was a lesson I learned that night. It was about the glass bottle and opening that little door on the
Yeah.
chamber. And I remember at the end of the night realizing that was the first time I'd realized that I was not going to get all the charting done. And I
Oh yeah.
literally just walked away. And I was like, well, I didn't get all the charting done. And I left. And I
What?
just,
You
the world,
left?
the world didn't come to an end.
What? What do you mean?
I just left.
You didn't even
So,
chart?
no, I charted, but I didn't
Oh.
get it all done.
What do you mean you didn't get it all done?
So I charted my assessments.
Okay.
I
Your
charted
face.
my,
I just left.
I just left. So I charted my assessments. I charted my hourly rounding or whatever, every 4 hours, whatever it was at the time.
Okay.
But there was a lot of like things on the task list that you're supposed to do, these weird things that show up on these task lists. I don't even know what it was,
Like
but
a head to toe assessment. No, I'm just kidding.
no, like that sort of thing I did. It was just, I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. It's like these random things.
Like
People know like what I'm
the
talking about.
SCBs, like you check it or what?
Right. Like that you did this or that you did that, or like some weird assessment of whether like a mobility assessment
Oh,
or
range of motion kind of thing, and like,
I
SCV
I
or
mean,
ambulation. Yeah.
because at the end of the shift, I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, I don't know if I did this stuff or not. And I just got so overwhelmed. I was just like, see ya.
Did you
I'm
get
out of here.
did you get audited?
I
Because
just
they have those auditors that'll like flood your inbox with emails saying like, oh, you need to do this assessment or whatever. Or no?
Yeah, I know no one ever said anything. So it's the kind of thing
Whoa.
like if you don't do something, and now I understand, I didn't understand. I was so new. Like I didn't even understand what I was doing or not doing. Um, all
Just
I knew is
clicking
I was
around
trying
in
to
the
take,
dark.
well, for heaven's sake, I mean, I'm brand new. I barely know how to take care of people. And that was my number one priority is I have actual physical human beings here
Oh
that are
God.
that are in a hospital for crying out loud. There's something wrong
Yeah.
with them
Don't
to the
kill
point
them.
that they've
Yeah.
been admitted. Right. And I just want to make sure like whatever they need, I want to make sure I do. So I
Mm.
wanted to do my assessment and make sure like that however they were when I got them at the beginning of the shift, they remain that way. And that's in my mind, that's the most important thing. Like you assess them at the beginning of your shift and you're like, this is how they are now. The nurse previous, the previous nurse from me agrees. We both agree, right? This is the way this person looks. If that changes, I got to let someone know. That's my job. I got to let somebody know, the on-call provider, whoever's night shift, the one random doctor that's, can be found for 60 miles. But
Yeah, yeah.
like, hey, this person, now their lungs sound, crackly and they didn't at the beginning of the shift.
Hmm.
So to me, that's a priority. So I'm going to make sure if they're on telemetry that I'm watching their telemetry. Now I was from a step down floor, a cardiac step down. So telemetry was first and foremost in my mind. So I was always like, why aren't they on telemetry? And they're just from a neuro floor. And they're just like, they're not on telemetry. What's wrong with you? And I'm just like, but how do you know if their heart is okay? And they're just like, it's because that's not what they're here for. And I'm just like, well, I don't know. That's my priority. You know what I mean? Like you're new,
Yeah, yeah.
so
You
you're
don't really
just
know
doing
what the
what you.
priorities are, and you're like, oh, crap. You almost sound like a daddy daycare, like a dad's taking care of the kids for the first time, and you're like, well, let's let's return them in good shape. Let's make sure we don't miss
But I
any fingers or
guarantee
toes.
you, it's true, and I guarantee you that people listening to this podcast, especially new grads,
Mm-hmm.
I promise you, there are so many people listening to this going, "Oh wow, this is so me," because how else are you going to be when you just got off orientation, you just graduated 2 minutes ago,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't know, and you're doing the best you can. Like all I could do was to think I have a person here and I want to make sure I do the best for this person. And then like the other stuff, the protocols,
Yeah.
the like the charting, like the legalities, which is it's scary because you need to do that stuff. Like that's to cover your
Yeah.
butt. I didn't understand how important that was at the time because all I was caring about was the patient.
Yeah.
And so that's all I could care about. I didn't know enough. All I could care about was just like worrying about them and just like, I know what lungs are supposed to sound like. I know what a heart's supposed to sound like. That's all I could care about. So like, if I heard something different, if I saw something different, I was going to let somebody know. And then I'm going to give them their meds as
Mm-hmm.
best I can on time. And that's all I can do,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just was doing the best I can. Then I transfer to another hospital, a bigger hospital. I get a longer orientation
Mm-hmm.
and it felt so different.
You're like,
And then
ah, relief. Like, I actually get
it's like,
support.
oh,
I'm not thrown into the deep end
mm-hmm.
after I had the floaties on.
There's people actually answering the phone at the desk. It's just so different. There are
There's people
CNAs
that
there to
even there's
help.
there's a unit secretary actually. You guys don't even have a
Yes.
unit, no techs, no unit secretary.
No,
Middle of the
no.
night, you're thrown in with these 5 patients, and now it's like,
Yes.
holy
Yes.
crap! Wow.
It's
So,
so
well,
bad.
I'm proud that you didn't kill anyone, or you didn't like, yeah, no one died on you.
That I was
Tina,
determined. I was determined I was
you
going to take
don't
care of
die
those
on not on
patients.
my shift.
Damn you, you're not going to die on my shift.
Well, Tina, they're DNR. Oh, well, I guess we. All right,
Oops.
all right. Imagine, like that would have been crazy. Okay, wait,
Oh
hold on.
man.
I have a question then. Looking back at it now, was your charting like? Did you like make any like massive mistakes on your charting? Like, could it come to bite you in the butt?
Probably. Yeah, I'm
Whoa,
sure.
really? Wow.
Because it I didn't understand it. If
Yeah,
how could I possibly have understood it? I didn't really get an adequate orientation.
yeah.
I had multiple preceptors. I was
Wow.
just kind of thrown around following people. I didn't really understand what in the world I was doing.
They
It
never.
wasn't
Yeah.
until
Wow.
Yeah, it
Okay.
wasn't until I was transferred to this level 1 trauma center where things are actually done the way they're supposed to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And I had one preceptor who was amazing, and she was very
Mm.
meticulous, and she was
Nice.
very detail oriented and insisted that things be done correctly.
Mm.
And oh man, I love her so much. I just to this day adore her because she taught me how to be just basically she taught me time management, how to focus on what's important,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, the importance of not only taking care of your patient, of course, that is the priority, but also yes, documenting, because that's covering you. That's
Yeah.
and I try to tell people that now whenever I have nursing students that are following me, like I know that because I know how I felt about it. You're going to be tempted to think that documentation is not important, but it is, because
Mm-hmm.
yes, you're protecting that patient, but that documentation is protecting you. And as we've learned, by nurses actually being arrested and charged criminally for mistakes that they've made, for med errors, it can affect you directly. It really can affect you negatively if you're not covering yourself and what you're doing. So you've got to do the best you can.
Yeah, especially like they say, if you didn't chart it, then you didn't do it, right?
Right. And so
So.
it doesn't matter all the stuff you're doing to help
Mm-hmm.
your patient, and you're being such a good nurse and you're doing all these things, and then, stay that extra 30, 45 minutes, even an hour, whatever you got to do, you have to put all that in there and jot it down, like as you're going, come up with a system that you can kind of record what you're doing somehow. That way you can go back at the end of your shift and go, put in your nurse's notes and just be like, yes, you know, notice, patient's lung sounds became crackly, notified uh, Dr. So-and-so, ordered chest x-ray, whatever, that
Mm-hmm.
way you're putting your stuff in there that you did. It's so important. And I didn't understand that at the beginning. I just thought, man, I got to watch. These are people. I got to take care of these people. And it's true.
Yeah, yeah. I think you did it right though, because imagine if you really like basically, let's say you missed an assessment or you missed a critical finding and a patient ends up coding on you, right?
Yeah.
Like that would have been really bad, I think. Not on, I mean, sure it'll be bad on your license or like, you get in trouble and stuff like that. But think about it, like bad in a humanistic standpoint. You're taking care of humans and they're trusting
Yeah.
you to be their nurse. Even if you're a
Right.
brand new nurse, it's like you don't know. Like imagine you're 80 years old or your grandmother's like, hey, it's a nurse. I don't know how experienced they are.
That's
So,
how I looked at it. And I looked at it like, well, for one thing, when I went to nursing school, I did not understand the level of responsibility that nurses had on their shoulders. I had no idea. And I realized that probably most of the general population that are not medical don't realize this. And I
hmm
don't even think people, I, don't, I would dare say, even if you're not a nurse, a lot of people in the medical field, I don't even think understand what nurses the responsibility that we have on our shoulders, like the fact that the doctors are there and they make their initial assessments, and they do
hmm
they make their diagnoses, and they put their orders in, and then they leave because they have other
right.
responsibilities. And so it's your job to know what's going on with the patient, understand the orders the doctor has put in, and understand and be able to catch mistakes that have been made.
hmm
The court will say that you are responsible because you've been educated. You're supposed to know. You are the last person between
Yeah,
potentially a
safeguard, yeah.
mistake the doctor could make and that patient receiving that. And so you're required to use your education and understand, like, don't give um, 10 of something when you were supposed to give
Yeah.
1.0, whatever.
Yeah, don't overdose the
Um,
patient when
yeah,
an extra zero can kill the patient, right?
exactly.
Yeah, that's insane. Yeah. Well, let me think here. We can transition to why you chose nursing and then I guess your future nursing goals if we have some time.
Yeah. So I think why I chose nursing
hmm
was because for one thing, I do like caring for people, like taking care of people. And it is it's quite a diverse degree. It can do lots of different things with it. Um, and so when I actually started doing it, I realized it was very different, of course, as I said, than anything that I even understood before. But so then my goals really are to kind of what I had in mind with the podcast and with everything that we're trying to do with Good Nurse, Bad Nurse, and that's to educate people. And we try to educate nurses, nursing students, people who are thinking of going into nursing. That's kind of our goal. Is just even there are a lot of people that listen to our podcast that email me and say they don't have anything to do with the medical field. They just stumbled on it and just like to hear. It's interesting.
Yeah, it
And
really is.
I feel like it's helpful for those people to hear what nurses go through. So like, we're talking about true crime, and that's kind of the entertaining part of it or whatever, just sort of the mystery part. But intertwined with that, we're kind of educating people on the nursing part of it. And so as people listen to it, they realize, oh my gosh, nurses do all this stuff. And then the nurses that are listening, it helps them to understand, oh my gosh, I'm not the only one that goes through this. So that's
Very
part of my
therapeutic,
goals
yeah.
for the future. Yeah. Is to just sort of expand on that and find different ways of reaching people and educating people. I definitely think I figured out that I like to educate. It's fun for me. I love to just reach out. I think I like educating other nurses. I think it's very much fun for me.
And we talked about, you're doing, speaking of career goals, you're doing your CCRN?
Yes, I'm studying for the CCRN right now. I have to take it by February. So
we were even talking about you teaching CCRN or like making some cheat sheets and maybe thinking like that would have been really cool.
Yeah, we're planning on some friends of mine that are studying together are going to probably like video our little study sessions and put them out there for people to see, because I feel like, I don't know, just it's a different way of learning. I feel like there's lots of different ways that people like to learn, and so that's, to me, a good way to learn. It's just kind of like listen to someone else try to talk something out, and process it.
And I mean, like, there's a bunch of YouTube videos for nursing students, but I mean, like, imagine you can hit all the key points for your CCRN, like highlighting, the top topics. I think that would be really cool. That would be really helpful. So more to come. Anything else? What's the goal with the CCRN? Are you just gonna because you already work in the ICU, you already work at the top of the top, the ICU.
So I'm working in ICU, and I want to be certified working in CVICU. I am currently working on, actually, I did a research project at my hospital where I was sort of studying the effectiveness of using podcasting to educate nurses. And I was so surprised at the overwhelming response that I got, because people loved it. They really did. They liked it. Yeah, I did a little pilot episode on DKA, and I did another one. Yeah, and I did another one on vasopressors, where I interviewed. So I interviewed a nurse practitioner, a critical care nurse practitioner, about DKA, and then I interviewed a pharmacist, a hospital pharmacist, on vasopressors, and we talked about all the different vasopressors. And and so I sent it to these different nurses, and they all came back and they were just like, oh my gosh, I love that. Do you have anything else? Do you have any other topics? So I probably will expand on that a little bit more. That was fun, and it helped me doing, by interviewing these, experts. It helped me understand those topics more. So I enjoy doing it.
You can even put together like a little bullet point cheat sheet for like, all the critical care drugs and stuff for CCRN. Yes. That would be really cool. All right. Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, unless there's anything else to add, I will sign everyone out. What do you think?
Sounds good.
Well, guys, that wraps it up. Thank you so much, Tina. Remember, guys, it's the Murder Mystery Podcast, Good Nurse, Bad Nurse. Tina highlights one good nurse and one bad nurse every single episode. So if you like the murder mystery stuff, go ahead and subscribe to our podcast. Again, it's called Good Nurse, bad nurse. Thank you guys so much for listening to the Code Blue podcast. Don't forget to download Holly Blue, the one and only nursing app for nurses created by nurses.